Well, hello, friends. Today is Thursday, March the 14th, and I am so pleased that you are joining me here. Now, if this is your first time ever being on one of these live sessions, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Anna Sabramowitz, and I help people craft amazing scenarios. And if this is something that you're really interested in doing and you want to talk to me personally about how you can take your learning to the next level, scenariodesignsecrets.com and book a session with me. All right, so today is going to be a little bit more intense because I got a question yesterday from one of my cohort participants, and this is a really great question, and I wanted to address it because I think that our focus as scenario developers is on the wrong things sometimes. So the question was about how basically when you're working with a subject matter expert, the information that they give you is kind of, it's very concrete, it's very methodical. It's almost like, I'm starting with trying to design a scenario, and I talk to this person asking them, hey, can you give me some sort of can you give me some sort of story that I can incorporate into this scenario, right? And what happens is that what they give you is almost like basically a regurgitated version of the manual, just their summarized copy, right? So a lot of people get frustrated with this, and one of the questions that I got is, how do you get the SME to tell you stuff that actually makes sense to incorporate into a scenario, right? It's not just them telling you from that book what the most important pieces are and you getting a summary of it, because they could have done that via email, right? Just told you these are the top 3 points. So how do you do that? And I know this might sound a little bit weird, but you have to get personal. Hey, Oscar, thanks for joining me today. Yay! Oscar, if you don't mind, can you put scenariodesignsecrets.com in the comment so that just people know how to, they can just click it instead of having to type it in? Thanks so much. So the next level that you have to get to in designing scenario design secrets, or sorry, the next level that you have to get to, see, I'm mixed up all right now. What you have to do is when you're interviewing your SME, you almost have to think like a person doing a job interview. And I know this will sound weird, but bear with me here. When you're in an interview, you have to usually give the questions that are asked are the STAR questions, right? So it's a situation, then how did you solve it? What did you think about it? And also, what were some of the outcomes, right? So what happens is you kind of, even in an interview, you're asked to give a story about an experience that you've had and the reasons behind why it played out that way. And if you really think about when you're interviewing the SME, that's what you're trying to do too. You're trying to get a very important situation out of their minds. And also what you're trying to understand is what was the reasoning and the thinking behind it. And you want to know their conclusions. Now, in an interview process, you're trying to figure out, because you want to see if that person's going to be a good part of your team, right? But you want to use the same strategy when you're interviewing your subject matter expert, because all that stuff, all that reasoning is actually really valuable for you when you're designing your scenarios. So here's my, okay, don't focus on the actions. Ask about thoughts and feelings. And you know what? It's funny because when I first started this process, talking to subject matter experts and going, well, I'm going to have to ask them about how they feel, because guess what? When you have the feelings and the thoughts that are running behind somebody's actions, you can actually ask them questions about why they made that decision, because that really gets into decision making versus I'm following protocol. Because following protocol is just doing what you're told. But if you're in a difficult situation and you have to make a decision, and there's a rationale behind it, and there's also feelings wrapped around that, that helps you also determine where people are going to make mistakes because they make the wrong decisions, right? So those are the things that you want to discover. So I have these top 3 questions that I ask to basically kind of ease them into it, because I always preamble these. I could say, you know what, I'm going to get a little personal here. How did you feel about that? What were you thinking at that very moment? Those things kind of get, and you know what, most of the time people actually really open up and they want to tell you, because nobody's ever asked them before. Nobody's asked them what they thought or felt. Those are personal things. Those are interesting things to them, right? Because they're their own. And boy, do they give you awesome info. So, oh, sorry, Oscar, you missed my, here. Let me just type it in. Here you go. Yes, there we go. Okay. All right. So the questions that I suggest that you ask, there's 3 questions. Okay. So the first one is, and this is how I start to discover a specific scenario or a challenge that they had regarding a certain concept that we're trying to get our learners to, right, in that scenario. So tell me about a time you had a big problem with this specific topic. So tell me about a time you had a problem or a challenge, collaborating, being a leader. No problem, Tamara. And then what happens is they'll tell you about a challenge, and what usually happens is people will tell you the surface stuff, right? They'll say, what is the protocol? They'll usually tell you things that they think you expect to hear, according to the company culture, according to what's happening. So what happens is a lot of us stop there, and then what happens is you get a scenario that's dry, boring, and basically they're like, yeah, okay, this is what it says in the procedures. What you want is something compelling. You want motivation, you want decisions, you want uncertainty, right? How do you get that? Ask for thoughts and feelings. So follow up every single one of those questions with, okay, so they tell you what happened. Good. You've got that captured because you're recording it. And you say, okay, well, how did that make you feel? And then, magic, of course, shut up. Even if they are quiet for a long time, be quiet and wait. They're thinking about it. They are recalling it. It's gold. I'm telling you, it's gold. And then, what were you thinking while this was going on? And then, once again, zip it. Wait. It's going to get uncomfortable. If you're not used to this process, it's going to get uncomfortable. 1, because you're asking them about their feelings. 2, you're waiting for a long time. Guess what? This is where your stories will come alive in your scenarios, because you're getting this background info. You want to get this person invested in telling you all of the background stuff. That's what helps you craft scenarios, because now you can incorporate that into your story. Also, when somebody says, that made me feel really frustrated, you don't stop there. You don't write down frustrated. You say why, and you keep going, because usually those are the things that give you your distractors. Those are the things that help you craft the reasons why somebody would choose a different path. If somebody's frustrated, let's say, or angry or fearful, then you can say, okay, so they're going to try and do everything they can in the situation to avoid that feeling. So that might lead them to make a wrong decision, right? So you want to we are emotional creatures, right? So you want to find out what the emotion is, because a lot of times it's not that you don't want to follow protocol. It's because you want to avoid a bad situation. You want to avoid a bad feeling. You won't know that because you've probably never done it. So you got to talk to this expert and figure out what is it that drives those situations? What is it that drives those decisions? And then your scenarios will be like, whoa, okay, I'm freaked out right now. I don't know what decisions I need to make. I want to avoid this bad one, but I know that's probably the best choice. Let's see what happens. So that's your goal, right? So always don't just focus on actions. Actions are super important, but that's not where you stop. You have to get the thoughts and feelings, because that's what drives people to make the wrong decisions or the right decisions, right? You got to figure that out. And the only person you can get that from is your subject matter expert. So yes, all right. Any questions or anything else that you've got going on, please let me know. Listen, I share stuff here that I'm learning and incorporating into my process. And this comes at a painful refinement, right? I'm hitting this stuff and I'm like, I'm not getting the info that I want. How can I unlearn this and try something different, and also look to see what results I'm getting and then iterate that back into my process? That takes time. So if you want to do this here, go for it. If you want to basically skip all the suffering and work with me directly, go to scenariodesignsecrets.com. We can get on a strategy call. We start you off, boom, without all that pain. You can just learn from my painful lessons. Tamra, excellent questions. So when you're interviewing Smeezy, you record the interview 100%. And Tamra, I actually have a great video about that. But the reason I do that is because there's like so many awesome benefits to recording your scenario interviews. One, you can't write and talk and listen at the same time, right? So what happens is you actually, you think you're hearing everything that they're saying, but you actually lose quite a bit. And the other thing that does is I find that when people know you're writing down notes, they'll start synthesizing their thoughts to make it easier for you to capture. They're censoring themselves almost inside their mind. They'll talk less. They'll share less ideas because they know everything's like this, right? So if you want them to open up, share stories, give you all the juicy details, emotions, really open up, you got to start recording, because then you can just sit back, really pay attention and listen and have a super deep conversation and get all the juicy details. And there's nothing like, you're just actually, the only time during my interviews when I take notes is when they say something and I'm like, oh, I want to come back to that. I'll take a little note, but I don't disturb them in their train of thought. So it gives you this amazing freedom. And that's what I suggest you don't do notes. You do set them up to say, listen, this is going to be actually faster because I'll have to talk to you less in the future because I have all this information and we don't have to clarify it over and over. So I really sell them on the idea, and then I offer to even send them the recording after so they can keep it or destroy it. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. And I'm 100% you should record all of your SME interviews. And once you get good at this process of like asking for feelings and thoughts, the waterfall will, it'll just flow and you'll be like, oh, this is amazing. So, and then I transcribe them. I use rev.com. They usually come back to you. Sometimes they come back to you within like just a couple of hours. And then you have the full transcript, which is fabulous because then you don't have to come up with any language. You already have the language that somebody would use to describe these situations. So it's pretty awesome. I hope that was helpful. Let me know. If you have any other questions, I will be leaving this soon. However, post them underneath the video. If you found this useful, please share it with other instructional people. Okay, I'm glad you found it helpful. That's great. And thanks so much for stopping by and asking me live, because usually I'm like, people email me beforehand, but this is way more fun and interactive. All right, so I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. I will be here again tomorrow. So if you have any questions, please join me then. And in the meantime, have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care. Bye.